And one last look at your traffic and weather from the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Center. Got a couple accidents to report, one at Augusta Highway and Pisgah Church Road, another one at Bickley Road near Dutch Fork, another one at Bluff Road in Rosewood, I-20 eastbound on Alpine Road, Leaphart at, Old Barnwell at Old Orangeburg Road, and then today's weather, high of 85 with a mix of clouds and sunshine. Your traffic and weather from the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Center here on the Early Game. Oh, 9 o'clock on your Tuesday morning. Welcome in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Veltri along with you. Had a bit of a choppy morning this morning, Jack.
Why is that?
I got caught in traffic. Well, first of all, I was late leaving. I got caught in traffic. When I got, quite literally, I was just trying to turn my microphone on. I dumped a bunch of papers onto the board here. So things a little bit off to a shaky start for me. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. It's a wonderful day outside. The skies are blue. The sun is out. It's not too ridiculously hot. We're a few days away from football. What now? 5 days away.
5 days, man.
5 days away. Oh, and by the way, we got a bombshell of news to talk about.
Could you actually believe it when you saw it? Like
no.
Were you like, I can't believe this is actually happening?
Oh, and here's a funny story. This has happened to me a few times now.
Okay.
I think I just have crazy luck and just, all that. But I would say this. So yesterday, I had plans to write a story about, okay, what if Rasul Faison is not cleared?
Right.
What does that mean for the rest of the running back room? I had asked Shane about this last week. I had quotes, all this stuff. I had the story ready to go, all scheduled, probably like 2 hours before everything kind of went haywire.
Yep.
The story was scheduled to go out at 5:30. About an hour beforehand, I get a text in our Gamecock Central group chat. There's a report that Rasul Faison's been cleared. And I'm like, SHIT a bunch of times.
Mm-hmm.
But, so I had to delete that story. But, hey, the good news is out. Sewell is free.
Finally.
Free. Take the chains off, my boy. Take the chains off. He's free, and he's good to play in the 2025 season.
And
Crazy.
We'll examine all angles of this right after our Sandstorm Pick Me Up.
Time to get hyped. Here's your 9 a.m. Sandstorm, sponsored by George Sink Injury Lawyers. Just call all nines.
It is time for your 9 a.m. Sandstorm Pick Me Up, brought to you by South Carolina's largest injury law firm, George Sink Injury Lawyers. If you've been hurt in the car or at work, call George Sink now at 803 all nines. I think Sandstorm is what was playing in people's minds when they saw this news yesterday about 4:15, 4:30, when yes, indeed, Rasul Faison was officially cleared by the NCAA. 8 long, agonizing months. I know Jay was keeping like the day counter up. It was 220 some odd days, I feel like. It's just a ridiculous amount of time. And let's kind of like go back and look at this whole process, right? So he transfers in January. They submit the paperwork on Carolina's end and all that kind of stuff. And again, the only reason he ended up coming to South Carolina was because of the Pavia ruling, right? The fact that Diego Pavia was able to get eligibility extended because they deemed his junior college years didn't count against his FBS eligibility. Rasul Faison's like, hey, that applies to me too. So come South Carolina, submit the paperwork. And as we know, everybody gets eligible by the NCAA. There are very rare instances where they say no to anybody. So a couple weeks go by, no big deal, nothing really concerning. Then you get into spring ball. It's like, okay, still hasn't happened yet. That's kind of weird. You get in the month of May. I go back to when Beamer was talking to Welcome Home events and was asked about Faison every single time, and he was getting angry. Like, he was getting visibly upset when talking about it because it was going on for so long. We go through the months of June and July, and again, there were multiple times, right, where we heard or there were reports that, like, hey, something's happening this week. Media days. The week of media days, Beamer said on that Monday, hey, we feel like, we're getting close, something may be happening. And we thought, hey, by the end of the week, maybe something. And then the next week, and the next week, and the next week. And we're here on game week. Yesterday, we said this. I'm just assuming it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm just like, you know what? At this point, prepare as if it's not going to happen and be surprised. And again, I thought maybe in the middle of October, randomly on a Wednesday, they'd be like, hey, by the way, he's eligible. Like, okay, that's cool. Mm-hmm. But until then, it would just kind of be this, like, thing you put off to the side and, like, all right, let's start focusing on the game being played now. But lo and behold, I don't know if they found a piece of paper under a copy machine somewhere or somebody finally hit send on the right email. For whatever reason, it finally happened.
I'd love to see a documentary on the NCAA perspective on the moment it just clicked. Like, hey, wait. Let's go ahead and just clear this guy. He's been tortured for long enough, nearly 9 months. I mean, let's just give him a chance to play. And look, it's a big deal for South Carolina. I mean, he's got to be. I would imagine he's got to be like the oldest player in college football. So for perspective, this is funny actually, just looking at it. Born on February 20th, 2000. For context, I've been out of college for going into my third year now.
Yes.
He's 4 months older than me.
Oh, my goodness.
Like, that's crazy. So, and Oscar Attaway is very old for being in college, too. Oscar Attaway's not old, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, you might have the oldest 1-2 combo in all of college football.
Like, I think the combined age of those guys is well over 50. Like, that's insane.
So, let me look this up here. For reference, I just pulled up the Gamecocks roster. Lex Cyrus, who is a true freshman this year, was born in 2007.
Like,
Rasul Faison was 7 years old when one of his youngest teammates was born.
I mean, it's insane. Now, to be fair, age is just a number one.
It is.
But also, he does have, like, again, this whole time, he's had the case to be able to have this extra year. Yes, he might be gunning for his 7th year of eligibility, but he's only really played 3 seasons of college football.
Yes.
Played a year at Snow College, was at Marshall originally, but never played football there. Then took some online classes at a random college, then went to Snow, then went to Utah State for 2 years, and now he's here at South Carolina. So, in reality, only played 3 seasons of ball, and now he's here. So, it makes sense that he's able to play a 4th year, and I'm glad that is going to be the case.
I think they were popping bottles of champagne across the street.
What, at the facility?
At the facility, like, hey, this is finally over. But by the way, this is definitely the first thing that Beamer mentions tomorrow, right, in his presser?
What if he makes a joke like now, before you guys ask, Sewell is free or something like that, instead of saying...
Maybe he'll wear the T-shirt to the press conference.
Oh, my God.
Did we get a new T-shirt, by the way? Because we had hashtag free Sewell. Now, can we get hashtag Sewell is free?
I haven't seen one. Maybe you were mistaken on that, but... Dude, I'm telling you, you're spinning the wheels here. I can see it.
Got ideas.
I can see it. I can see the vision.
I fully expected, and again, maybe not as many for week 1 because it's neutral site, but I fully expected to see a lot of hashtag free soul T-shirts at the first home game against SC State next Saturday if things had not gotten resolved by then. So I feel like your perfect opportunity to capitalize is Sewell is free.
Yeah. Or Sewell Freed, like
Sewell Freed, something along those lines,
or Sewell Free,
Sewell Free, something.
Like that's on the marquee at the touchdowns in 5 points. Sewell Free. So yeah, no, it wouldn't shock me at all if Beamer. Maybe he'll have cookies tomorrow with Sewell Free on the.
Maybe because last week he brought the cookies so you guys could taste them yourselves, so you could give your own take on Mrs. Beamer's cookies. Maybe tomorrow will just be celebratory. Yeah. Like, hey, I brought cookies because we're all happy. We're all feeling good.
Yeah, no, I'd love that. Those cookies are so good. And I'd imagine tomorrow we'll probably end up speaking to Sewell. I know I requested him for media availability. I'm sure everyone else and their mother did the same thing. So tomorrow will be good to just hear from Beamer, potentially hear from Faison, and move on because now he's going to be able to play week 1, which
Sure.
I think is a huge deal for South Carolina and what they can do now going forward. Like having a good running back really makes a big difference.
Yeah, and again, we looked at this running back room as certainly plenty of capable guys. Obviously, Oscar Attaway did a really good job last year when his number was called as kind of that, other guy behind Rocket Sanders, and we had confidence he was going to be able to step in and do fine. But, I mean, you look at, and the reason why there's so much excitement around Rasul Faison is what he did at Utah State. And I feel like because we've been caught up so much reminding people or talking about the case itself and the eligibility, I think it's easy to kind of forget what kind of running back he was when he was at Utah State. Eclipsed over 1,000 yards last year, really good at forcing missed tackles. He was 8th in the nation at missed tackles forced a year ago with 69 on the season, averaged almost 4 yards after contact. So this guy, he's not the fastest guy in the world. He's not a speedster that's going to necessarily burn you every single time, but he has a really tough guy to bring down.
If you have not yet, and you're a South Carolina fan, go on YouTube right now after this break here and just look up Rasul Faison highlights because I was watching them yesterday. I am so impressed by. There are 3 things that stand out to me. His vision, like his field vision, is so good. He's able to obviously break tackles and keep those feet moving. I mean, those are the 3 things you want in a running back. He almost reminds me, if he were a little bit bigger, he's pretty big, honestly. He reminds me a lot of like Derrick Henry in a lot of ways, in the way that he just won't go down. Like you said, breaking a lot of tackles, keeps the feet moving. He's got the really good awareness. He may not be the quickest guy, but he's got the IQ to look at where he is on the field, look at what's in front of him with the protection up front and the gaps that are open and what's not open. He's able to cut, make the right moves, and go find the right holes.
Yeah, so I'm so excited to see him in person or see him finally play this upcoming weekend. And again, I guess it is, and going back to what Beamer said before, they kept him a part of the game plan, right? They were continuing to get him reps and make sure that, hey, if this eligibility came at any second, we'd be ready to go with him. So I don't think that there's this like, oh, well, now he's got to get back up to speed, and we don't know if he's going to be able to carry the load this weekend. Like, no, I think he's ready, full go from everything that we've heard, that he was still participating as much as possible as if he was going to play, and that obviously ended up paying off.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. I mean, I saw some analysts yesterday kind of like pointing out, like, okay, it's great that Rasul is cleared, but now he's got only like a week to ramp up and get ready to go for week 1. I mean, that's not the case, though. I mean, the national guys don't see what goes on every single day here at the facility, so I can't blame them for having that take. But we've seen it, and Shane's mentioned it. Like, they've kept Rasul getting his reps, preparing like he's going to be ready for week 1. And so he should be ready to go full steam ahead.
And, I wouldn't have blamed Beamer and company if they were like, all right, well, until we know, we're just going to kind of keep them off to the side here to make sure that, we're pairing Oscar Attaway or these other guys to get the reps they're going to get. But and maybe it was an inclination this entire time, like, hey, we're going to get something here soon to kind of keep things going. But, yeah, it obviously ended up paying off because now there's not like, oh, crap, and now we got to reintroduce him really quick, for the next 5 days leading up to this game. Like, no, he's ready to go. He's been taking his reps, and now we just know for sure that this is our guy.
Like, they're going to be fine now with what they have in the running back room. And again, I think we're still going to see multiple guys getting carries on Sunday, but it wouldn't shock me at all. When we see that depth chart, either today, tomorrow, whenever that comes out, there would be Rasul Faison at the top and maybe no Orrs after him.
Now that we have this, the depth chart's got to come out today, right?
I mean, I think it has to, right? I
saw Fink teasing it a little bit yesterday on Twitter.
Oh, did he?
Somebody tweeted at him like, hey.
Oh, that was Hale from the Big Spur.
Hale was like, hey, can we get the depth chart? And he's like, patient. So I imagine, hopefully, keep refreshing your email within the next couple of hours.
I see that. Patience, young grasshopper.
Yes, so it's coming. I really hope. And because, again, the week is funky because you're playing on Sunday, because typically we would have gotten it yesterday, but today is actually their Monday, even though it's Tuesday. So I'm thinking maybe it'll work out.
I'm sure by the afternoon you and I are going to be talking about it plenty, so I would imagine it comes out midday.
We'll keep an eye on that and react to it when it does come out, but we'll continue to look at this running back room. Now, the Sewell is officially free as the Extra Point rolls along. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry along with you here on your Tuesday on the Game. Tyrod here for our friends over at Twin Peaks. I am so excited for football to really get rolling this upcoming weekend with week 1 of college football. The NFL only a few days behind that, and you know there's only one place taking all that amazing football action. That's with our friends over at Twin Peaks. No matter what time your game's kicking off, no matter what teams are playing, you can find it on at Twin Peaks. They quite literally have TVs in every single corner across all the walls to fit whatever game you are looking for. And while you're watching those games, chow down on some delicious wings or burgers or anything. They got a great selection of food as well. And of course, you cannot forget about those 29-degree draft beers. There is no better place to park yourself on a Saturday or a Sunday or a Monday night or a Thursday night whenever football is on than with our friends over at Twin Peaks. Get down there this football season at Twin Peaks. Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. It's Outerhead and Jack Belcher along with you here on your Tuesday, celebrating hashtag Sewell is free as Rasul Faison receives his eligibility confirmation from the NCAA yesterday, and now we're ready to go for week number 1 coming up Sunday against Virginia Tech, which, by the way, you can listen to right here in the game pregame coverage starting at 10 a.m. that morning with the Gamecocks game day, myself and Terry Ford, and then network coverage kicks in at noon, taking you right up until kickoff. By the way, I don't know, a guy named Mike Uva on our live stream Uva was insulting your hat. I don't know if you know that guy or not, but he seems to not like the Yankees very much.
Yeah, he's just he's what we call a hater. So yeah, that guy. But we got a comment from Oscar Attaway Jr.
Oscar Attaway, the Oscar Attaway that's the running back for South Carolina is the third.
Yes.
His father is Oscar Attaway Jr.
Yes.
Who is on the text line saying, "Go Cox, Sewell is free, baby. We're about to win the national championship."
Man,
sounds good to me.
He's the man.
I'll take
the
it.
man. So shout out Oscar.
Appreciate Pops Attaway there for listening in. I know he's listened when Oscar has been on like the GT Hour and stuff like that. So cool that he has us locked in there, and excited to watch Oscar too. So we thought Oscar was going to end up having to be RB1. I think it's going to be interesting to see how the carries are divvied up now, and how deep into the running back room they go on Sunday.
I think what we're going to see is, and we heard Shane Beamer talk about it a bit last week, they're going to definitely use they're going to use multiple running backs this season. And I think what we're going to see is Rasul's probably your RB1, kind of like what Rocket Sanders was last year, because I think he could take on that type of workload. But I think we see more of Oscar this season. Like, Oscar got a lot of carries last year, but he was second fiddle to Rocket Sanders. Let's not lie about that.
Yeah.
I think he gets more carries this year. There's also Isaiah Gustave, and we also have, there's also the 2 young running backs in Fuller and Howell that, you have a lot of carries to divvy up between these guys, and now that Faison's in the picture, it probably changes a lot of things in terms of how many reps those guys might get.
So last year in game number 1, and look, I went into that game thinking we're going to go really deep in the running back room because it was, let's face it, Old Dominion. That's a team that, you expect Carolina to beat pretty handily, and you get backups in garbage time and all that kind of stuff. Obviously did not end up happening. They only had 3 running backs get carries in that game last year: Rocket Sanders, Oscar Attaway, and Juju McDowell. So I kind of think we're going to see something similar this weekend. I would love to see Jordan Howell. I'd love to see Matthew Fuller. And I'm assuming those guys are, technically running backs number 4 and 5 at this point. I don't know that for sure. That's just kind of my guess. But I don't know if you're going to see everybody get a touch this upcoming weekend.
Probably not. You don't have anything to lose giving those guys touches, because it's not like you get to worry about redshirting them or anything. But, I feel like those guys have earned the right to get reps. Isaiah Gustave deserves a chance to be carrying the football a handful of times for South Carolina, considering the really nice camp he's had.
We had the best run of camp.
We've heard really good things about Fuller and Howell, which is good to hear as guys coming back for their second year with the program. And then you have, obviously, Oscar Attaway, who is he was the elder statesman in this room, but now you got someone who's actually a few months older than him. So I think what you do probably week 1, I would imagine there's probably a little bit of a workload for Rasul going to week 1. But again, it wouldn't shock me if he gets most of the carries, and then you divvy it up between Oscar and then Isaiah, and then try to get the other guys in there.
So last year, Rocket Sanders got about 60% of the carries by running backs in terms of total rushes last year. I don't know if Faison gets exactly that number, maybe a little bit less, and maybe you do put a little bit more on Oscar Attaway's plate this upcoming year, because again, he proved to you that he could. And again, he was the running back in the bowl game last year. He proved to you he can play at this level. You can obviously use him out of the backfield with the pass game and stuff like that. So he's proven to be a valuable option in the running game. So I think he's earned a little bit more than even what he had a year ago. And it's gonna be interesting to see how they kind of split that up. And again, if they get to Auguste, if they do get to Fuller or Howell, if depending on how those guys have done, it kind of seemed like when Beamer talked last week on most recently Carolina Calls, he, of course, talked about the Faison eligibility thing, and it kind of seemed like the running back room was just kind of all on a more even playing field. It didn't seem like anybody at the time had really broken away from the pack necessarily. So we kind of went into this week thinking it was going to be back by committee, but now obviously you have Faison, so that changes your plans.
It definitely changes a lot. And what you have now is a real threat in the running back rooms. Not to say the other guys are not, but you have someone that's proven they're going to go out there and they're going to be a really tough out. I mean, Faison rushed for over 1,100 yards last year at Utah State. And as we talked about, the shiftiness, the field vision, the ability to break tackles. I mean, he has all those tools in his basket, and he's able to make things happen. So you have a really proven running back now that I think kind of changes the perception a little bit of how do we view South Carolina yesterday before the news came out, and how do we view them today? Like, for me, like, I think this is probably now – I think they're a borderline 10-win team now that they have a really strong running back room.
And I'm glad you brought that up. Our guy, Scott Hamilton from the Post and Courier that did the halftime show with me yesterday, he's an AP poll voter. And he voted South Carolina as the number 12 team in the country. And obviously was pretty much almost spot on with where they ended up in the rankings. They ended up being 13th. But he said, I voted on them based on the assumption that Rasul Faison was going to play. If he wasn't going to be eligible, then I would have them somewhere around 19th or 20th probably. And I do wonder, we talk about McMurphy, talk about Reese Davis, those national prognosticators that didn't have Carolina in their top 25. You could have told them 2 weeks ago, hey, Rasul Faison's going to be cleared. He's going to be your RB1. Would that have changed their perception of Carolina when they made their votes?
It definitely does change the perception in a lot of ways because it's like, I mean, you have Attaway, you have Augustave. Those guys are both really good, but, I mean, again, having a Faison in there, someone that could be your Rocket Sanders for this season, that really does change things in a lot of ways. And I can imagine, you'll have people looking at this team a different way going into the season. Like, I think it's much more of a lock. I don't want to say a lock because it's never a lock, but sure. I feel much better about South Carolina going into the season knowing they have a really good quarterback. They have some really nice pieces around him. And, they have a really nice running back to complement what they have in the receiver room.
Yeah. It's definitely going to be interesting to see. Do you think Virginia Tech's been planning for Faison this whole time? Now, again, you only just kind of started getting in to, like, actual specific Carolina prep in the past couple of days, but, like, what's been their thought on the running games? Like, did they plan for Faison just in case? Is it been like, all right, we're kind of locked in on Attaway because we think he's going to be the featured back? Like, I'd be interested to know, and I don't know if Pry's speaking today or tomorrow, kind of his thoughts in the preparation process they've had with this kind of will he, won't he from Faison.
Well, I mean, again, Shane explicitly mentioned it in the press conference last week that, hey, like, they're treating Faison like he's going to be able to play week one. So, I mean, I don't know if other coaches listen to these press conferences at all or anything, but if he did, if Brent Pry did by any chance, then he would know, okay, Faison's going to be, probably if he's cleared, he's going to be ready to go for week one at full strength. So I think they're probably planning like he's going to be playing.
Well, by the way, we'll talk about the running back situation of VT a little bit later on in the show because things are a little bit interesting there as they've got some issues that they're trying to work out with their running game as well. But we'll continue to talk about Rasul Faison all day long. But coming up next, I want to get into some coaches that are under a lot of pressure going into week number one, and Brent Pry is one of them. We'll dive into that next. It is The Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Feltry along with you here on your Tuesday. Hashtag Soul is finally free on the game. Tyler ahead for our friends over at Canty Foundation Specialists. It's been nice out the past couple of days, but rain is always right around the corner, especially during the summertime. And if you have an open crawl space under your home and recently experienced a storm, you might have some standing water under there. And as I like to remind you, high humidity and condensation in your crawl space can create a number of issues like mold and mildew, and can even invite pests like termites into your home, which you absolutely do not want. It can also affect the air that you and your family breathe, because about half the air in your home does end up coming from your crawl space, which you don't want to be breathing nasty, moldy, mildewy type of air, right? That's where our friends at Canty Foundation Specialists come in. Go online to schedule an appointment today at cantyconvicts.com. They'll send a professional out to your home to evaluate your crawl space foundation issues and get them fixed so you and your family can live without worry going forward. Again, go online to schedule an appointment today at cantyconvicts.com for our friends at Canty Foundation Specialist. Welcome back in. Extra Point. Tyred and Jack Feltry along with you here on your Tuesday on the Game. It is a very, very busy week here on the Game as we get you set for game number 1 on Sunday. Got to get used to saying that. Tomorrow, we're going to be out at Firehouse Subs from 9 until noon at the Main Street location, 633 Main Street, for the Extra Point and Gamecock Central takeover hour. And then tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock, it is a Beamer's weekly press conference. Again, because the game's on Sunday, things have shifted around. So Tuesday becomes Monday and Wednesday becomes Tuesday. So you will hear from Beamer tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock as he gets you set for game number 1 against Virginia Tech. And I'm sure we'll talk plenty about Rasul Faison during that press conference as well. There's a lot of coaches under pressure this entire season. But there's a few particular ones, Jack, that are under a lot of pressure going into week number 1. And I can't think of anybody that may be under more pressure than the guy down in Tallahassee and Mike Norvell, who yesterday, in talking to the media, discussed how he believes Thomas Castellanos, his transfer quarterback from Boston College, is, as he described it, ready for the moment against Alabama.
There's the ownership of all actions, of what he's doing with his arm, what he does with his legs. I think even the continued growth in protections and being able to help position, get us in the best place. I think he's done a wonderful job with that. Working with Coach Malzahn, Coach Tokars, I think those guys have been great for him, and he's. I'm looking forward to seeing him be able to transition all of that work to the field on Saturday against one of the top defenses that probably in the country. But he's prepared for his moment, and he's better than what I've seen.
Do you think Mike Norvell has liked the fact that Thomas Castellanos has been poking the bear the entire offseason?
Tough to say, but it's what Florida State needs. They need a little bit of a shot in the arm, a little bit of motivation going into the year. And again, Thomas has talked about it publicly that that's what he's trying to do. But also he's definitely stirring things up as the season opener approaches, which this is probably one of the more anticipated ones because of the storylines like this.
Oh, you have to prove that you're not a doormat anymore. Like last year was embarrassing. And going back to week 0, last year in Ireland for Florida State, who was a top 10 team, losing to Georgia Tech. It's like, oh, my God, how could Florida State lose to Georgia Tech? This is a team that should have been in the playoff the year prior. And then a couple weeks later, like, oh, well, Florida State is just really bad this year. That's why. And you have to reverse those fortunes and prove to people. And, again, you don't have to win the game against Alabama. You just got to prove that you're better than you were a year ago. Make it close, make it competitive. If you lose on a last-second field goal, that'll probably almost feel like a win to the Florida State fans.
Yeah. That's true, but honestly, at that point, you just want to get the win. I mean, getting a win in week 1 would change a lot, I think, because we don't know how Florida State's going to do over the course of the year. Like, what are the expectations for them? We're talking about just getting to a bowl game. Again, this is one of the more historic college football programs out there that is only less than 2 years removed from missing the college football playoff with a 13-0 record. So, I mean, we'll see if they can return to that form this year, but obviously not many people are confident in them.
Yeah, and on the flip side of things, how about Kalen DeBoer? Last year was disappointing by Alabama standards. You went 9-3 and missed an expanded playoff. That's unacceptable. You had inexcusable losses to Vanderbilt and to Oklahoma, a very bad Oklahoma team from a year ago. Like, they got to get the season started off on the right foot, too. If you lose to Florida State, flipping this around, that was 2-10 last year, oh, I don't want to be on those message boards, after game number 1. The faith in Kalen DeBoer will take a pretty deep nosedive if that happens.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if there's another season like the one they had last year, which, most teams would take that, but at Alabama, you expect to make the playoff, and losing 4 games last year is not acceptable by those fan standards. I will say, though, Alabama was pretty hard on the road last year. They lost to Vanderbilt on the road. They lost to Oklahoma on the road. Lost to Tennessee on the road. I mean, a lot of their games that they lost did come on the road. And then, of course, they lost the neutral site game in the bowl game to Michigan. So how does Alabama fare on the road this season is going to really be the big telltale of we've seen what they can do at home. We know they have all these explosive players on offense and defense, probably an NFL caliber defense, quite honestly.
Yep.
And you have one of the best players in college football returning in Ryan Williams. But how do you perform on the road in these tough atmospheres? And week 1 is going to be a really good example of what this team looks like going into the season.
Again, outside of Florida State, maybe like losing on a last-second field goal, I feel like the losing fan base of this game on Saturday is going to be in a really bad place.
Yeah.
Coming away from week number 1.
I would say so, especially if it's Florida State. I mean, they're used to it, but Alabama would, those fans on the message boards would not be happy at all.
How about Deion Sanders? You talk about a year to prove something, right?
Yeah.
Your entire coaching tenure in college has been tied to Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. A lot of success at Jackson State. A lot of success last year at Colorado, including Travis Hunter winning the Heisman Trophy. Now that both those guys are gone, now you're kind of on your own as a coach. Like, I think Dion, and they're going to play a scrappy Georgia Tech team on Friday night to start the season. I think Dion has to prove what he can do minus his 2 star players.
I mean, yeah, it's going to be tough to. It's either there's no replacing Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. Like Shedeur's a lot easier to replace because he's a quarterback, but
Sure.
Travis Hunter's unique in that he played DB. He can also play receiver, so that makes it a lot tougher to replace him. And also, not to mention, you're losing a guy like Jimmy Horn, who was a really good receiver for Colorado last year. Some other pieces are gone, so it's going to be tough to replace what you lost. But I mean, specifically with Shedeur and Travis, and even Shiloh Sanders too, I think is another one that is tough to replace. But I think Colorado going to this year, I don't know what the expectations are for them. I would definitely say they got to probably get to a bowl game to feel good about, okay, Dion can handle his own getting to a bowl game.
Is that acceptable enough, though? And again, this is a program that was 1-11 before he got there, so maybe they can't be too high on their horse. But with the attention that program receives, with the buzz that you had in the first 2 years, I feel like just getting to a bowl game would be disappointing.
It would. It would be a step back because they won 9 games last year, so that it would be disappointing in that sense. But I mean, ideally, the next step would be to make a potential run at the Big 12 and win the Big 12 title to get an auto bid into the playoff. But you have to look at what they lost, and I think people would realize, okay, like that Colorado wasn't necessarily able to fully replace Shedeur and Travis, but if they are able to figure that out, then maybe they can make a run at this thing.
How about Brian Kelly? LSU was on a long streak predating him there of losing Week 1 games, and you've got perhaps the toughest Week 1 game out of anybody going on the road to Clemson to start the season. And we've talked about it. That Clemson roster looks as good as anybody in the entire country, and I'm kind of leaning towards Clemson probably winning that game.
I worry about what happens for LSU if they do lose this game, because I feel like they've put so much energy, and I don't want to say they put all their eggs into that basket of beating Clemson, but I think it really does hang over the head of Brian Kelly that, hey, like, you haven't won a season opener at LSU yet. And he's talked about it in the Netflix documentary, like when he lost to Southern Cal last year. Like, It's frustrating. Like, he wants to
banged on the table.
Yeah, wants to win these season openers. And on the flip side, what would a win do for LSU? It would affirm that, hey, like, they're not playing around this year. They can be a legit national title contender and go on the road and beat a top 5 team in the country. But again, if they lose, I mean, I just wonder what this looks like for LSU, because I could very well see them dropping maybe another few games.
Now, here's the thing. There's not any shame in losing to Clemson. Again, that's a really good team that I think a lot of us would say has a good shot at maybe making it to the national championship this upcoming season. So losing to them doesn't derail your season. Like last year, Southern Cal, it was like, I really don't know how good Southern Cal is going to be, and they ended up not being all that great. So that was more surprising. Like, if they lost to Clemson, I'd be like, all right, I still think that all your goals are still ahead of you, though.
I agree. But context given here, LSU has not won a season opener in years.
Yeah, since 2019.
Yeah.
The national championship year.
Like, it's crazy that's been the case. And, I mean, it doesn't get easy. I mean, you have Florida coming into town 2 weeks later. And then after that, I mean, you have South Carolina, you go to Ole Miss. Like, the schedule isn't necessarily easy after that first game of the year. So it's going to be critical for LSU to win. I think there's just something about wanting to prove that they are legit. I think that's what they want to do going into this game.
Now, obviously, I'm not rooting for Clemson in this game, but if Clemson's offense is able to run up and down the field on LSU's defense, I feel a lot better about South Carolina going in there at the beginning of October saying, all right, I think they'll be okay.
I think LSU's defense is going to be better this year. I think they got some nice pieces coming back this year. I do see this group potentially being better this year. I'd be shocked if they were worse this year.
Speaking of LSU, Brian Kelly spoke yesterday about his thoughts on players celebrating and coming off the heels of that Stanford player embarrassing himself. What does Brian Kelly have to say about players expressing excitement on the field? That's coming up next as we wrap up hour number 1. It is the Extra Point, Tyler Head and Jack Beltry on your Tuesday on the Game.
I'll give you an example. They make plays in practice, and they're not doing the sword thing and, all that stuff. They're like, next play. Bring on the next play. And to me, those little nuances show I'm confident. It's kind of like the old adage, you hear it all the time. You get in the end zone, give the ball to the official that you expect to be there again instead of 18 different dances. Now, I'm not against any of that stuff. I don't want to sound like the old guy here that doesn't like excitement. But you asked a question, and I'm answering it based upon what I see. And what I see is when a guy does that and he hands it to the official, he truly believes he's coming back in the end zone. And so I see a lot of that on the field. Now, we got to go play. I get it. But in answering your question, those are the things I see.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Points. Outerhead and Jack Felcher wrapping up hour number 1 here on your Tuesday on the Game. Brian Kelly, head coach of the LSU Tigers, weighing in on touchdown celebrations or celebrations in general on the field. I don't know if that question was asked on the heels of what we talked about yesterday with the Aura Farming Stanford defensive lineman that got penalized on a critical drive against Hawaii. But I guess it doesn't surprise me that Brian Kelly's not necessarily pro celebrations on the field. There is a limit. There's a line that you shouldn't cross, but I would imagine Kelly's not the most fun-loving coach in the world, so that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not completely surprising that he's that kind of guy, Mr. No Fun. And look, I kind of agree with the standpoint of, there's a limit to celebrating, right? You can be happy that you scored a touchdown or whatever, but again, this isn't the NFL where you can do all these celebrations and stuff, have these all scripted celebrations that you work on.
Now they're cracking down on that in the NFL. They're emphasizing unsportsmanlike conduct again. It's like, what I thought we were leaning this way. Now we're leaning back. What's going on?
I don't know. The no fun league. But again, I understand it from the standpoint of there's a limit to what you can do. And so it can cost your team in situations like this. And I think the Stanford one is going to be one that is probably referenced a lot as an example of if you do this, this is what can happen. And, of course, it led to Hawaii scoring a touchdown right before the end of the first half.
Yeah. How unfun do you think the rest of that game and the flight back to Palo Alto was for, what's Clay Patterson, I think is his name?
Yeah, Clay Patterson. Yeah. And he was probably doing his next TikTok dance. I'm sure this guy's a TikTok account with 100K followers, whatever. So. And
I haven't been on TikTok in a very long time. I did delete the app because I was being too distracted by it. I don't even know what the dance was. I don't know what he was doing, either. But apparently it came from TikTok, and he did it a second time in front of an official, and that's where okay.
Yeah.
And again, if you've played any sport, when you do something significant on the field, you have that charge of adrenaline, charge of excitement. Letting it out with some kind of celebration is fine, but there is a limit, right? And again, the NFL's done a better job in recent years. We'll see what they do now in terms of allowing more unique celebrations. And there are choreographed ones with teammates, stuff like that. As long as you're not, taunting the other opponent while you're doing it, that's fine. I do think you have to contain yourself a little bit. Is the most infamous touchdown celebration the dog pee incident from Ole Miss a couple years ago?
It's one of them. I would say at the college level, absolutely. I would definitely say that's the case.
Do we have any unique celebrations with Carolina players?
Not that. The only thing that I remember last year, the only thing I can think of that would be celebratory would be when Bradley Dunn scored that touchdown against Wofford and all the guys poured out of the bench to go celebrate him. I mean,
which that's you're celebrating a guy that's grinded,
context
earned
of
his
senior
opportunity.
day.
Yeah, like that's different than some kind of dance or pre-rehearsed thing. Now we had a situation last year that was not good with Dylan Stewart and his machine gun shotgun celebration.
Yeah, there you go.
Ended up, that was bad. Was that the Ole Miss game?
That was the Ole Miss game. I forgot about that. Oh my gosh.
One of many things we were not happy with when we came in here on Monday, or anybody was happy with, obviously, but I can't think of any other specific ones for Carolina players. Maybe I'm not thinking of one here, but nothing comes to mind.
Maybe someone on the text line will jog our memories. But Dylan Stewart, that was that game. I mean, that was at the point in the game where it's you're already down
Yeah.
24-3 or whatever it was at that point.
Yeah, that was the thing is like you weren't in a situation where like what you did, the sack on Jackson Dart was going to change the outcome of the game. You know what I mean? It's like, oh man, you're already in a rough spot here. Let's not make this worse.
Yeah, I know. So not surprising though, but is what it is. And yeah, I mean, look, again, with celebrating and stuff, there's a line. Like you can be excited, you can pump your fist, you can do all this stuff. But again, when you go into a dance routine here and do like what Clay Patterson did with the, I don't even know what it is. Like you have your hand up in the air and then you like whip your other one out.
Listen, I am a terrible dancer. I'm the last person in the world to ask about dance moves.
Yeah, I don't know, but maybe the TikTok folk out there will.
Is the gritty still a thing? Do guys still hit the gritty?
The what?
The gritty?
Oh, is that the thing that like Justin Jefferson was?
Yeah. He I don't know if he popularized it.
I feel like he definitely popularized it. I don't know. I haven't seen anyone do the gritty in quite some time.
Yeah,
so I feel so 2023,
I feel like we're getting old now. Where you have to ask about the latest trends.
Remember the whip?
I remember the whip.
And the nay-nay.
You remember the dab with Cam Newton
the
back? The
dab.
You know, during that MVP season?
These kids wouldn't know.
Kids these days, man. Kids wouldn't know. I guess you got to be on TikTok to know all the dances now.
Yeah.
That'll do it for hour number one. Coming up in hour number two, we'll dive back into Rasul Faison and look at the running back dynamic on both sides for South Carolina Virginia Tech coming up on Sunday. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Feltry here on the game.
When it comes to HVAC replacements, AAA Heating and Air has your back. They offer guaranteed financing, 12 months with no payments or interest, and a 15-year warranty on parts and labor. So if you need a new system, they're the best in the Midlands. And let's be honest, there's probably going to come a point where you do need a new system. Your air conditioning unit might go down. Your heating system might not work. In that case, AAA Heating and Air will come to the rescue and help you out. But here's the question. What if you don't need a replacement? What if you just need a quick little repair? Good news for you. AAA Heating and Air has you covered there, too. They offer up to 12-month payment plans on repairs with no credit check for homeowners who need repairs. Just have a valid bank account, and they'll handle the rest. So whether you need a replacement or repair, AAA Heating and Air has unbeatable options for you. Give them a call today and get your comfort back on track. AAA Heating and Air. Comfort you can trust.
Welcome back in. It is hour number 2. It is now the Garnet Trust Hour, presented by Krantz Schooling Heating. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry along with you here on your Tuesday on the game. Talking all things Rasul Faison, as, of course, we learned yesterday afternoon, he's finally been let free by the NCAA after 8, almost 9 long agonizing months. Will he, won't he? Will they give him his eligibility or not? And that was the thing, is it wasn't that he wasn't eligible. We didn't have an answer at all. Like, if they were going to say no, we would have said, all right, well, tell us no 5 months ago, so we're not spending the next entire summer going back and forth on will he, won't he. But thankfully, they did come to their senses, or at least found whatever missing paperwork they were looking for, and now he's ready to go.
Yeah, so that's good for South Carolina. Really good news. You get a 1,100-yard rusher who had really good success at Utah State last year. Again, this is what South Carolina needs. They obviously lost Rocket Sanders after last year, who ran for nearly 1,000 yards on his own with the Gamecocks in his lone season there. And now you got Faison. And it adds to I think what's going to be a really dynamic running back room where you have him as the top option potentially. Then you have Oscar Attaway and Isaiah Gustave as your 1-2 punch behind him.
So let's learn a little bit more about Rasul Faison. This is a clip that he did from an interview with 1801 Media a while back, just telling you a little bit more about him.
Who's your favorite NFL team?
I'll rock with the Bengals right now.
Who has been your favorite running back to watch over the years?
Le'Veon Bell.
Who would you say that your running style is like?
Le'Veon Bell.
Which team in the SEC are you most interested in playing this year?
I won't play LSU, and I won't play Bama.
You want some real smoke, then?
Yeah, for sure.
Who's your favorite teammate right now?
Jared Brown, Illinois.
NCAA calling you, give you a ruling.
Yeah.
You're cleared. Who's the first person you call?
I'm calling my mom instantly.
Yeah.
Instantly, like, it's go time.
I don't know if he's going to be one of the players available tomorrow. I would hope he would be, given the news. You got to ask if he called his mom right away.
That's what I was thinking yesterday, because I saw that clip, and I'm like, all right, like, somebody's going to have to ask, like, did you call your mom? And what'd she say? Yeah, but look, I mean, it'd be a crime if we didn't speak to Rasul Faison tomorrow.
Because he obviously they had the big open thing with all the players.
He didn't speak.
Weeks ago. He didn't speak of that?
No, he wasn't there.
Am I thinking there was another time? Was it back in the spring? Maybe something in the spring like that?
The only time that I remember him speaking to the media was, I don't even remember if he spoke to us during spring ball, but in the newcomer gaggle thing.
That's what it was.
Back in like March or whatever. That's when he spoke. But yeah, we haven't heard from him at all since then, really.
Because one of the photos that y'all use on Gamecock Central when you're writing stories about him is him in a Carolina uniform talking at one of those things. I guess it was the newcomer introduction that I was thinking of, because I'm like, he talked to somebody. Yeah. That's where the picture came from. But, okay, that makes more sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but hey, look, he's clear now. He's good to go. And I think this definitely changes a lot for South Carolina, maybe in the way, I mean, they've been preparing like he's going to be playing, but now it's like, okay, like we know we have him, and now we can get him ready to go here for week 1. And I mean, there's been some people out there, national analysts, wondering like, hey, like he just got cleared, it's going to take him a little bit to get ramped up and stuff, but South Carolina's been preparing like he's going to be ready to go. Yeah,
and we don't know what the distribution was in the scrimmage games the past couple weeks. I imagine it was probably what they were anticipating, assuming he got cleared. We don't have any confirmation on that, but again, all other indications through camp was that they were preparing as if he was going to play. Again, thankfully, 5 days beforehand, 6 days beforehand yesterday when the news came down, we're ready to rock and roll now.
Yeah, and he got banged up in that first scrimmage, according to Beamer. So that, there were some other reports out there on it. But again, that gave opportunity to other guys to get carries. And look, all the guys have had their opportunity to get carries from what it seems in scrimmages and whatnot, but it's clear now that Rasul is back. I would imagine when that depth chart does come out, he's the first name you see on the running back list. And as we brought up in the last hour, how deep you go in that running back room. Do we see 3? Do we see 4 guys get carries coming up on Sunday? It's a good problem to have, right? Because you'd rather have too many options than not enough. Because, again, you know what you have in Oscar Attaway. From everything we've heard in camp, it sounds like Isaiah Gustave's doing well and earning himself some playing time.
you see high upside for a guy like Jawarn Howell, and we just haven't seen enough of Matthew Fuller to truly know yet. But you know, there's every indication that he would have been in the mix as well if they were going back by committee. But again, it's better to have too many of something than not enough. And I would say Carolina has a lot of good options at running back on Sunday that we could see. Maybe all of them get a touch at some point, but I'd say at least comfortably 3.
You can never have too much depth, especially at a position like running back where, I mean, look, someone goes down with an injury or something, next man up. And you have what I feel like are 5 really solid running backs. Then you also have Bradley Dunn, who's also on scholarship. So you have 6 scholarship running backs now, which is really a nice thing to have in there. But you have experience, too, number one. Like, Rasul Faison's been around the block for a while now. Oscar Adway, as we know, has been in college since 2019. I mean, Isaiah Gustave has been a good running back at Colorado before. It's going to be really exciting, I think, for this group coming into the season with some really nice expectations.
So on the flip side of things, what does the running back situation look like for Virginia Tech ahead of week number 1? And last week, the last time we heard from Brent Pry at one of their practices, he discussed Terrion Stewart, who is expected to be their lead back, dealing with a little bit of an issue as he was in a protective boot last week.
Well, today he didn't do anything. He's been in and out of that boot a little bit. They're treating him, and I think he's day to day. You know, he's had some good work this camp. I wish he'd had a few better days, and hopefully that can happen here, you know, over the next couple. But, yeah, so we'll see.
And here's Brent Pry talking about the depth that they have in their running back room.
It's a pretty deep room. You know, obviously Terrion's talented, and we want him healthy and running the ball for us as well. But you know, between Hawkins and PJ Prelo, Coney, you know, Bennett. I mean, there's some guys that are doing a nice job. T. Mason's had some good moments in camp. So, you know, we're still trying to figure out that final 3. You know, so some of that was, you know, making sure they get the carries they need today and things like that.
So for context, last year they had Baishul Tootin, who is a 1,200-yard rusher, moved on in the NFL now, and they've brought in pretty much all transfer running backs. Terrion Stewart from Bowling Green had 898 yards in 11 games last year, but is dealing with the injury, so we don't know his status. I looked it up earlier. No new reports on him in the last couple of days, and I'm assuming Pry's talking either today or tomorrow, and we'll get an update on that. But they're dealing with a little bit of a concern in their running back room as well.
Yeah, they are. And that's something that is definitely going to be a bit of concern heading into Sunday, I would imagine. And I don't know if you saw this, Tyler. There was another piece of news. I'm going to pull it up here on my computer. Andy Bitter, who covers Virginia Tech for Tech Sideline, reported that Hokies linebacker and team captain Caleb Woodson was charged with a DWI on Saturday. According to online court records, it's listed as a Class 1 misdemeanor offense, and he has a September 9th court date. So I don't know how that affects Virginia Tech and him going into that game, but you look at his numbers last year, made 11 starts, second on the team in tackles, also had 7.5 TFLs and 2 sacks. We can still make this about the running backs and whatnot, but just thought I'd mention that.
Yeah, important note there. And this is a team that is replacing a lot of talent from a year ago, most of their guys on defense. And Woodson and Jaden Keller, who are expected to be the 2 linebackers in the middle of that defense, are 2 of the returns last year. And those guys had minimal production. But, yeah, that also kind of throws a wrench into things if Caleb Woodson is not able to play this upcoming weekend. So good catch there on that. So a couple of significant key contributors that Virginia Tech could either be completely without or could be in limited roles coming up on Sunday.
Yeah, that makes it tough, especially if Terrion Stewart is not fully able to go. And that's a big loss right there because, again, they lost a lot of production at running back after last season. So it's kind of like what South Carolina has here with Faison. Like, if Faison wasn't cleared, you probably look at the running back room a lot differently. And for Virginia Tech, if Stewart's not out there, then you're kind of like, oh, man, like, what are we going to do?
Elsewhere in the running back room, and you heard Brent Pry mention some of those guys. They got Brandon Bennett, who was coming from Coastal Carolina, just shy of 1,000 all-purpose yards last year. Marcellus Hawkins, who transferred in from Central Missouri State, was a 1,000-yard rusher 2 years ago at the D2 level, but was injured most of last season. So I think they go into this game like Carolina with a lot of unknowns, a lot of question marks, and hoping for the best, particularly out of the running back room for guys that they haven't had to rely on before.
And the thing that Shane Beamer mentioned last week is he was asked something about Virginia Tech is for the defense, it's about stopping the run first and foremost. Like that is their number one priority. And that would force a team like Virginia Tech, who probably wants to come out in this game running the football a little bit with Philip Montgomery now as their offensive coordinator. They probably want to come out here running the football a bit. And look, if you don't have a guy like Stewart out there, or even if he's limited, that hinders you a little bit in being able to do that. And yeah, you have a guy like Braylon Bennett who has done it before at Coastal and whatnot. So that's a nice option. You have Coney as well. But again, if South Carolina is able to stop the run, puts a lot of pressure on someone like Kyron Jones, their quarterback, to be able to make the throws and be on target in this game.
Yeah, and again, Carolina was so good at stopping the run last year with that experience you had in the middle of your defense or your middle of your defensive front that we don't know yet. Like, again, you've got Nick Barrett, Monkel Goodwine, and Gabriel Brownlow-Dinley as kind of your three featured guys. And he also mentioned, Beamer did last week, Devontae Miles, Troy Pikes, who also transferred in, but we don't know how good those guys are going to be at containing that run. And again, you saw last year when you were able to take that run away, it made teams more one-dimensional, and you hope you have that same kind of success this upcoming year.
Yeah, we're gonna have to see what that looks like going into the season here. But again, if they are able to rotate the guys in there like they did last year and get and make it really effective on the pass rush going into the year, and you feel pretty good about them.
Did you see the uniforms that
I did.
He's rolling with this weekend?
Yeah, I thought that ad or that little tease was very funny that they were at Waffle House, which is very fitting. So yeah, and I've seen some people be like, oh, so this means South Carolina is wearing black uniforms on Sunday. Not sure because we've seen. I mean, Maurice Brown posted, tight end for South Carolina, posted a pic on Twitter yesterday with the black jerseys on. And then yesterday when the Faison, by the way, that Gamecock football video with Kanye West, Scott Is, and all that, when Faison got cleared, that was very well done, very timely. But the black jersey was notably hung up by a staff member at South Carolina. So I wonder if that means South Carolina's going all black for Sunday.
Well, I wonder, do we know who's the designated home team here? Is it VT or is it Carolina?
Ooh,
because orange would be a home color, and I know they've relaxed the rules in recent years, but not every game allows you to wear home colors on both sides.
Let's see if I can find it here. Can't find it, but again, I mean, in this type of game, wouldn't shock me if South Carolina is able to wear black. I mean, it's not like it's their primary home color, you know what I mean?
Sure.
These colors wouldn't clash at all.
I think a black versus orange game would look really cool. By the way, on the Virginia Tech football reveal video, the first comment below it is wearing orange versus a team who hates orange is quite a choice and not a good one. Oof.
Yeah, we know how that worked out for Clemson last year.
Yeah,
the all orange. So.
I don't know. Maybe that's more of a motivating factor for South Carolina. We'll have to see there. We're talking about running backs and eligibility, and a bit of a quirky story out of the NFL involving a former Ohio State running back that could maybe come back to college. We'll examine that coming up next. It is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. Tyler Head and Jack Felcher on your Tuesday on the Game.
If you're out there looking for a local, reliable HVAC service for your home or your business in the Midlands, reach out to our friends over at Krantz Cooling and Heating, KrantzCooling.com, K-R-A-N-T-Z, cooling with a K, KrantzCooling.com, or give Justin Krantz, the general manager over there, and his team a call, 803-755-0793. I've had Krantz Cooling out to my home several times. They did a mini split for me in the garage. They've checked out all the other units at my house to make sure they're running in tip-top shape. Love my experience so much that when my mom moved to Irmo, I got them to go out to her home too. They put in 2 mini splits for her. They handle all her HVAC needs as well. They could do the same for you. KrantzCooling.com or 803-755-0793. Since 1983, Krantz Cooling, their team has been providing great service to business owners and families in the Midlands. They can do the same for you.
Welcome back in. It is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling Heating. Tyler Head and Jack Feltry with you on your Tuesday on the game. Again, very busy week here as we get you set for game number 1 between Carolina and Virginia Tech coming up on Sunday. Thursday, Jay and Terry are going to be live at Krager Showrooms, formerly known as the Nest over in the Vista, from 3 until 6 for the post-game show. And then Thursday night, 7 o'clock, your last chance to hear from Coach Beamer ahead of Sunday's game with Carolina Calls, which can be heard here in Columbia as well as Myrtle Beach. Looking at the way things are written on ESPN, it would appear that Carolina is the home team this weekend, which means they would have the choice of black or garnet, whatever they want to wear there. But in years past, and I double-checked on this because I remember it, like when Georgia and North Carolina played, then the Chick-fil-A kickoff game, they both were allowed to wear home uniforms because their home colors were so different between blue and red. So I feel like there's enough of a difference between orange and black or orange and garnet that they would okay both teams wearing their home colors basically for Sunday.
I think Garnet would clash a little with
maybe a little bit, which is maybe why you're seeing the tees for black.
Yeah.
Because again, you want to make sure it's different enough where
like black and orange would be pretty different.
Yeah, black and orange would be pretty different. That way, you know, quarterback's not thrown to the wrong team. Like you want to avoid confusion there. So I feel like if Carolina goes all black for Sunday, then that you'll be able to tell the difference pretty easily.
Yeah, which will be good. So I hope it's all black. And honestly, worst case, I'd like the black pants, black jersey, white helmets with the black face mask. That would be pretty sick.
So I would even go as far as go black from head to toe. Because,
that's what I'm saying. That would be good too.
VT's wearing the white helmets, and again, the least amount of confusion you can create, the better, in my opinion.
Yeah, that would be good.
You sent me this yesterday, and I thought it was pretty interesting. So Quinshon Judkins, since we're talking about running backs and eligibility, Quinshon Judkins, who is now with the Cleveland Browns, was drafted 36th overall out of Ohio State last year. Of course, had previous played at Ole Miss before that. Was involved in a domestic violence situation back in July. The NFL is investigating, and there'll be some form of punishment coming down the line, depending on what they find. And the Browns have not signed him yet. He's the only draft pick this year that is not yet signed with his team, and it doesn't seem like there's any plans of doing that anytime soon. And Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk and NBC Sports yesterday wrote about this. There's kind of a loophole that he could maybe return to college, actually.
Yeah, so it's interesting. We saw something like this with a first-round pick from the Bengals. I'm trying to remember his name. But he played at Texas A&M, and there was this same kind of thing where, oh, hey, maybe he can go back to college. It was Shamar Stewart. So he was a defensive end selected 17th overall. And I believe he was the last first-round pick to get signed under a contract, and that was probably a little bit over a month ago now. But there was a time where people were talking about, well, maybe he just goes back to college and stuff. In the case of Quinshon Judkins, it's kind of crazy that a second-round pick at a running back has not been signed yet, and of course it's by the Browns, of course. But you look at his college years; he's only played 3 years of college. So again, it's not like to my knowledge, I don't think I've ever really seen anything like this. I guess there's always a loophole now, and if you go and challenge the NCAA more times than not, you're probably going to win. But like this isn't like baseball where you don't formally declare for the draft. Like if you're a junior and you get picked, you have the option to come back to school if you want to.
Sure.
But if you do go back, you're kind of risking, like, hey, like if you go into your senior year, you don't have as much leverage as you would your junior year. So I don't know. I mean, it's a little bit different in that way. In that football, I've never really seen stuff like this before.
And that's an interesting point that you bring up, because I've always thought that other sports allow you the ability, if you don't get drafted, to, hey, I have the option to come back. It's a lot more complicated with football, but I could see on the horizon something like that becoming possible. Like, hey, we've seen plenty of guys declare for the draft that don't get drafted. And again, you can always be an undrafted free agent or be a camp invite, but that's a long road to hoe in terms of trying to get yourself on a roster. You would be better served to come back and play an extra year of college football. The problem with that is, as we know, once you get through spring ball in April, your team's mostly set, right? You may have one or two couple spots here that, a guy may leave or you can bring in one more body, but that's not always the case. And usually you're pretty locked up, especially considering the fact that we're looking at a one-time transfer portal window coming up in January. I believe that should be starting this upcoming year, if I remember correctly, to where there's even less opportunity for movement at that point in the spring, to where if we get to the point where guys can just decide to come back to college football, I don't know where they would land.
I don't know either. And I don't know what Judkins would do if he went back to college. Now, Florio did write kind of towards the bottom of this story, if Judkins would play in college football this year, the Browns would still hold his contractual rights. But if he doesn't sign it with the Browns at all, he would re-enter the draft in 2026. So I guess because he has another year of eligibility, you can make this work to where he could come back to college. But, like, here's the thing. You mentioned, like, where would he land? Like, would he be able to go back to Ohio State? Like, Ohio State's probably got another 5-star just ready in the waiting to go play running back for them. Like, would he be able to go back there? Would he have to go, like, to a smaller school? I don't know how this would exactly work, because teams are ready to get their season going on Saturday.
Again, we're days away from kickoff, and it'd be really weird to just plop him in. Look, there's a lot of schools that would take him, right? Like maybe Ohio State does say like, hey, you know, we're kind of moved on and ready to go here, but you insert him at 90% of other schools, and they would take him 95% of other schools. They would take him with open arms, and he'd automatically be RB1. And again, this is just a very unique circumstance that we can't really plot out how exactly this would work because it's never really happened before. But I do think it's interesting, and Florio mentions in there about the preliminary injunction the West Virginia players just received as another example of, hey, if you challenge the NCAA in court, you usually ends up winning. And we thought the phase zone situation was going to end up going to court. Thankfully, it didn't have to. And now he's officially been ruled, ruled eligible. But you challenge him, you're probably going to get approved.
The other thing to think about, though, you can go challenge the NCAA all you want, but in Judkin's case, I mean, would he be waiting like a phase-on has for months on end? And by that point, let's say he would be, cleared to go play college football in like November. Like, is there any point in that? What if you get hurt? What if you go play and then you get hurt and then you kind of derail your draft status for the next year? Yeah, no,
it's all good questions that, again, I didn't even think this was within the realm of possibility this late in the going, but apparently, again, according to Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk to NBC Sports, it is. Now, I'm assuming this is not going to happen. I'm assuming because, again, he still has to deal with potential discipline from the league in terms of the domestic violence situation. What does that mean? Is it a couple games? And that's a big reason why the Browns haven't signed him, because they don't want to have to, deal with that again. Obviously, when you talk about Deshaun Watson, what's going on with him. But I imagine his next option would just be, after whatever the punishment is, just find another team as an undrafted free agent or a free agent, I guess, at that point, if the Browns don't sign him.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what's going to happen. Again, I'd be shocked if Judkins went back to college. It's just, again, I see what Florio's getting at here, but it feels like there's too many obstacles in the way of, like, hey, like, it's a few days before the season starts. You can challenge the NCAA all you want, but again, like I said, it could take a while. Like, guys like that are kind of in phase-on situation are still waiting. Like, that's the thing. So I don't know how quickly this would be resolved. If it were resolved in a matter of days, by all means, go do it. But again, there's so much that's unclear about the NCAA and the way they handle things, and that, who knows when he gets cleared.
Manny Navarro of The Athletic has put out his oddly specific predictions for every college football top 25 team. What did he say about South Carolina? What does he see in their crystal ball? We'll dive into that coming up next as the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating rolls along on your Tuesday on the Game.
If you are looking for a reliable local roofing company to help your home or business with your roofing needs, check out our friends at Classic Roofing. Joe Reeder, Max Sawyer, our guys, friends of the program here. They can help you take good care of your roof. That can be challenging, but you don't have to do it alone. They have years of expertise under their hats. They're a local company. Again, their families live right here in the Midlands, and the guys at Classic Roofing are GAF certified roofers. Only about 7% of roofers nationwide even have that certification. They can do inspections, installations, replacements, and repairs on your roof. You can visualize your new roof and what it would look like at classicroofingsc.com. You can check out their reviews and get a free estimate there. classicroofingsc.com, or give them a call, 803-590-7870. That's the reliable roofers over at Classic Roofing.
Welcome back in. It is the Garden Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. Tyler Ed and Jack Belcher along with you on your Tuesday here on the game. As I mentioned, it is a very busy week. Got a lot of things going on here leading up to game number 1 for South Carolina against Virginia Tech. Friday from 6 until noon. The X Point and the early game going to be broadcasting live from Darlington Raceway, as it's not only the open weekend of college football, it's also Cookout Southern 500 weekend as well. So I'll bring you a lot of great stuff from the track there coming up on Friday. And then from 3 until 6, the post-game show going to be live over at Columbia Craft on Green Street over in the Vista. And then that night at 7 o'clock, the Cotman Transmissions High School Scoreboard Show with Elijah Campbell and Justin Hall getting you set for all of the, I believe at that point, week 1 action of high school football. Or was last week week 1? Or was that week 0?
I think last week was week 0.
Okay.
But now it's week 1. I don't know. I saw somewhere out there, someone reporting on high school football. They said it was week 0, so
all right.
I don't know.
I get confused by that a lot because there was a lot of teams that played last week.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Totally got confused by that, too.
We are still looking at predictions and things like that as we lead up to game number 1. And I came across this yesterday, which I thought was pretty interesting. Manny Navarro of The Athletic does his oddly specific predictions for teams in the top 25. Of course, last year, Carolina wasn't in the top 25, so he didn't have one for them a year ago. But this year, being ranked, he gave them a oddly specific prediction for the upcoming year. He says, Lenore Sellers is going to have some electrifying moments as a sophomore, including, he's actually a redshirt junior, but either way.
No, he's a redshirt sophomore.
Redshirt sophomore, excuse me. Is going to have some electrifying moments as a sophomore, including an upset at home of a top 10 Alabama team. Still, the Gamecocks finish a disappointing 7-5 after a loss to Clemson at the end of the regular season. Oddly specific, but possible? Question mark.
I mean, if Lenore's is having this type of success that we expect them to have, then going 7-5, I mean, I don't see that being the case. I'm going to sell on that take. I think if he's having the type of success that people think he can have, like Heisman-level expectations, I think we're talking about a team that potentially wins somewhere between 8 to 10 games this year.
If Sellers is electrifying, as Manny says here, and they still go 7-5, that would mean the defense is really, really bad. To where, yeah, the offense may be putting up 42 points, but the defense is giving up 45. Like, that's the only way I can envision both of those things being true. Now, again, if Sellers got hurt or something like that, we're talking about a different situation, but this is assuming that we're talking about a full season of Lenore Sellers, and I guess in that hypothetical of beating the top 10 Alabama, you would have just survived a shootout at that point?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to figure out where, besides the Clemson game, I would imagine that we're talking about, Manny talking about South Carolina losing a handful of its road games, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, there's this stretch after September where, like, South Carolina could very well go 5-0 or 4-1, but there's this stretch from, like, LSU to Clemson where I think, like, all but one of your games are against top 25 opponents as of right now.
Yep. Yeah, the only exception is Coastal Carolina, the week before you play Clemson, but you only have 4 road games this year, but they're 4 pretty darn tough road games. Missouri, which has not treated you well over the years. Obviously, LSU speaks for itself. Ole Miss, and then Texas A&M. And I guess theoretically, and again, he doesn't have the exact detailed win-loss here, but maybe you're looking at this as a team that doesn't play well on the road and maybe drops all 4 of those games and then loses to Clemson at the end of the year at home?
Like, don't get me wrong. I could see a scenario in which South Carolina does lose 5 games. Like, I think if they – I don't think they're going to stumble in the first 5 games, but I could see, like, LSU, maybe they lose. I could see them going winless in October potentially. We've seen them struggle in October before, and then you chalk it up to, let's say they lose one of the road games against in November against Ole Miss or A&M. That's 4 losses right there. And then they lose to Clemson. That's 5 losses. So it's very much possible, but I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I would be a lot more worried about the Missouri game, and I do have a decent level of concern because it's just not a place that's treated South Carolina well over the years. If they were returning, Brady Cook, if they were returning Luther Burden, if they were returning Theo Weiss, I'd have a lot less confidence in Carolina going on the road to pick up that win. But they have just as many question marks, if not more, than South Carolina has. And Carolina's got the quarterback situation figured out. Missouri, to my knowledge, they've not even announced between Bo Prevula and Sam Horn who their starter is going to be. At least, last I checked there. So I lean towards the team that's got the better quarterback, which is going to be Sellers more often than not this upcoming year, as my early lean on that game.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Like, again, if Lindor's, as I said before, if he's really, really good this year, I mean, I'm trying to think of like where else. Like if South Carolina's defense is awful this year, then yeah, sure. But I think this offense, with what they have, I mean, this should be the type of year where you have the offense that can go out there and kind of save the defense a little bit, like the defense saved the offense on so many times last year.
So Sellers speaks for himself. The wide receiver room, as we've been talking about, has been getting that underrated tag, but I think people are starting to come around like, hey, there's continuity, same group of guys. Sellers worked well with them towards the end of last season. I expect this group to be really good. Are we going to say that they're a top 10 wide receiver core in the country? Probably not. It'd be great if they were, but I'm not going to go out there on that limb at this point in time, but they should be good. And now, as we learned yesterday, you've got your main running back figured out too, a 1,000-yard guy from Utah State. I feel pretty good about the offense and what they're going to be able to accomplish. The one caveat, as we talk about every single year, is the offensive line. If the offensive line is just god-awful, then okay, that could be enough of an issue to where you lose a lot of games. But if they're decent, if they can be even just slightly better than they were a year ago, then you're probably in a decent spot, and Sellers may have to work some extra magic because of that, but that should be enough to help. Because, again, you won 9 games with a not great offensive line last year. If you get that marginally better this year, you're in really good shape.
Absolutely. No, I really do agree with you. Again, if they're giving up about 40 sacks this year, I mean, gosh, that would be 3 years straight of at least 40 sacks given up by the O-line. But let's say they're better. I mean, like, that gives Sellers more time in the pocket to throw, do all the things that he's capable of doing. Like, I think there's a way in which this could go bad, but I do see, again, like I said, I think South Carolina is going to be in a good spot for this season.
Yeah, hopefully so. And again, these are very oddly specific predictions for top 25 teams. We may get to some of the more of these coming up tomorrow as we kind of branch out into more of college football. But a win against a top 10 Alabama team, that would be a pretty fun night in Williams-Brice Stadium coming up in October for homecoming.
Absolutely. I mean, that is the game that I think most people have circled on their calendar heading into the season. Like, that Alabama game is homecoming. It's a really big game. South Carolina, it'll be the 15th anniversary of when South Carolina last beat Alabama. I think there's a lot at stake going into that game. We saw how Alabama was on the road last season. That could be a pivotal game where, I mean, the loser of that game kind of in a tougher spot with the college football playoff potentially.
Think you should make Garcia honorary captain for that game.
Oh my God! Can you imagine that?
Him and DeMarco can come out of the cockaboose, and
Have we gotten Garcia as a? I don't think we have.
I don't recall. Maybe we have, and I just don't remember it. But not to my knowledge. But I mean, again, talk about the 15th anniversary of that win against Alabama. And again, both those guys, and talk about him and DeMarco, are still very local here. Because again, a lot of great players on that team, but I don't know how many of them are, in the vicinity to be able to do that. Yeah, I think that's very possible.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. Let's see those two guys come out of the cockaboose, and I'm telling you, man, it'd be pretty cool.
Yep, definitely so. And yeah, I would certainly take that win against Alabama, but hopefully this team's a lot better than 7-5, because that would be a major disappointment considering the talent that you have throughout this entire roster. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the hour. Fox and YouTube TV are having a disagreement, and we as college football fans are about to suffer for it. We'll dive into that coming up next. It is the Garnet Trust Hour, presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating on your Tuesday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry along with you here, wrapping up hour number 2 on your Tuesday. I saw this yesterday and I just sighed. I'm not even a subscriber to YouTube TV, but I feel for people that are, and I believe you're one yourself. Is that correct, Jack?
What, that I'm a YouTube TV subscriber?
YouTube TV
yes,
subscriber?
I am.
So news coming out yesterday that Fox Sports and YouTube TV are locked in a carriage dispute, and they're at an impasse as of right now. They have a deadline of 5 p.m. tomorrow afternoon before the channels of Fox, FS1, and the Big Ten Network all go dark on YouTube TV. Doesn't this happen every single year? There is at least one service provider that butts heads with a sports channel entity, and some portion of college football fans or NFL fans lose that network right at the start of football season.
Didn't this happen with, even in I'm thinking of Major League Baseball, didn't Bally Sports go dark? And it was going to be you can't watch the Braves or the Reds or whoever's on Bally Sports. And then, come to find out you could still watch those teams all the time.
I think they got that resolved at the 11th hour. I think it was before last year, if I remember correctly. But I know 2 seasons ago, ESPN and Spectrum, I believe, had their issue, and I have Spectrum, because Florida and Utah opened up on that Thursday of week 1 at 7 o'clock, and at 6:55, ESPN went off on Spectrum channels, and everybody calls and complains and all that kind of stuff, and eventually those two work things out. But every single year, this kind of things happens with some service provider and one of these networks, and the people that suffer the most are the football fans.
And if this can't get resolved, we're looking at a situation where you might not be able to watch Ohio State, Texas. You may not be able to watch Auburn, Baylor.
Baylor.
There are some other games on.
And NFL Week 1 is a little over a week away.
Yeah. So this has got to get resolved. Time. Of course, this has to happen right as kickoff is about to approach. So it's time for these two to get together and get this figured out, because it's time is ticking.
And again, no matter what amount of angry phone calls or whatever you send in isn't necessarily going to resolve this, which is all the more frustrating. And some of us may have the opportunity to use somebody else's login credentials on the Fox Sports app or something along those lines, but some people don't. And some people that are really excited for the college football season are going to have to sit and watch other games because they're not going to have access to these.
It's a pain, man. Again, the college football fans get screwed over in these situations, and it sucks. It sucks for us. It sucks for all the fans that want to watch their favorite team. Imagine if we're talking about Ohio State and their fans, it sucks for them. They want to watch week 1 top 5 matchup, and maybe they can't.
Yeah, again, that deadline coming up tomorrow. Now, these things typically don't last very long once the blackout or whatever we call it starts, but still, just the prospect of missing anything, especially that Texas-Ohio State game, which is the biggest game of week number 1, game day is going to be there, all those kind of things, that would suck. And again, it goes back to we as sports fans, particularly college football fans, have to suffer while the, corporate types that are up there making millions upon millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, argue over how much more they're going to make. And again, we have to suffer the repercussions of it.
It sucks. Again, it definitely does suck. I just wish this wouldn't happen. I wish this was something that would happen months ago and not, on the verge of, hey, college football season's about to be here. Let's get this figured out. I just don't understand why this goes on the way it does. There's so many optics to it that probably go on that we just don't know about.
I imagine there's just the pressure of football season forcing the hand of one side or the other, and I don't know which side ends up caving on this or how all those specifics work out, but it always goes into football season because that's when they know that, hey, a lot more people are now tuning into these channels, and we need to figure something out because of that.
Yeah, no, they definitely do need to get this figured out. So hopefully they do. I mean, it seems like I don't know. I don't know what the indication is on when this is going to get figured out, but hopefully this is something that gets resolved rather quickly because it needs to.
Yeah. So again, Auburn, Baylor coming up on Friday night, and then of course that huge game between Texas and Ohio State coming up on Saturday. As oh man, week 1. So excited, can't wait. It's gonna be a full slate. As talked about yesterday, I've already started mapping out my viewing schedule for the weekend of what games to watch on what device, what TV, what laptop, all those kind of things. And I don't know. This seems like one of the more loaded week 1s that we've had because you kind of have at least one feature game in every time slot. So Ohio State, Texas at noon, Florida State at 3:30, LSU, Clemson at 7:30, Sunday, obviously Carolina, Virginia Tech, and then Notre Dame, Miami. There's not really a lull at any point.
And TCU and UNC.
And TCU and UNC on Monday night. There's really not a lull at any point of this window is just kind of a bunch of cupcakes. You have something at all times during the day.
Oh, man, it's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. It starts with, I would say it starts with Boise State since they're the only ranked team playing on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. But you have that Nebraska-Cincinnati game that night.
Which will follow it, yep.
Yeah, 9 o'clock at night. It's at Arrowhead, by the way. I don't know if you knew that. It's...
By the way, I'm glad you brought that up. Have you seen what Dylan Raiola said about the comparisons to Patrick Mahomes?
I was going to mention this to you yesterday, something we talked about, but I didn't know if it was that newsworthy. Apparently he does not like when people call him forget the nickname. He said Little Mahomes or something, or
because you try and look like him. And his defense was, well, God made me look like Patrick Mahomes. No, he did not. You don't normally look like Patrick Mahomes, but when you cut your hair the same way, when you have the same facial hair, and when you wear his number and mimic all of his movements, yeah, people are going to make those comparisons.
Of course,
and I get it, they're friends or whatever, or Mahomes is a mentor to him, but it's getting really weird, right? This is you get to the point as a college athlete making millions of dollars in your own right, you got to establish your own identity, man. He even does. When they run out of the tunnel, he does Mahomes where he jumps up in the air and does the high knees. Everything about this guy mimics Patrick Mahomes.
Come on, man. You're doing this to yourself at this point. Look, and him and Pat seem to be buddies too. So there's a little bit of justification to it, but it's strange how similar he tries to be to him.
If you want to take one element, if you want to wear his number, okay, cool, that's fine. I don't care. A lot of guys wear numbers of players that they idolize, but when you wear the same sunglasses as him,
the same
hairstyle, this is just getting weird.
No,
you know what I mean? And this is why people laugh at you.
Imagine he gets drafted by the Chiefs.
Oh my God.
Dude, that would be so funny.
Yeah, it's one of those things where maybe he thinks Patrick Mahomes is his best friend, but he's definitely not Patrick Mahomes' best friend. You know what I mean? One of those kind of things.
Totally.
I don't know. Hang around. I'll see you in a couple hours.
All right, man. See you then.
Coming up next, Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on the game.
All right, folks, let me tell you about our friends over at Integrated Media. The beautiful thing about it is you can take your dreams for that home, make it a smart home, dreams for your man cave, dreams for the living room, and they can take whatever you're thinking about and then just turn it into a reality. You can hit them up today, integratedmediainc.com, or give them a phone call. It is 803-948-8327. Their services include basically anything to do with your TV, your surround sound, your smart home services, or securities and cameras. If you work from home, for me, it was all about my home office. Didn't really have a great connection to the Wi-Fi. Needed hardwired internet, so they came in. They ran Ethernet throughout the home into my office, into my wife's office, and made sure we had a great connection there. And then we went a step further with whole home Wi-Fi. They can also hang TVs. They can hide the wires for you, and they can go all in on that man cave too. Hit them up today. Again, for more information, integratedmediainc.com.
11 o'clock on your Tuesday morning now. I almost said afternoon. It's still morning. Welcome in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler and Chris potentially joined by Wes here shortly. Haven't gotten a follow-up on that. He said he might be available, so we'll see. He's got some stuff going on.
He's got things he's doing.
Yeah, I think it would be an excused absence if so.
How many of those does he get?
Oh, that's a good question.
I think I'm past my limit, actually.
No, I mean you guys have been pretty good about it. As long as I know well beforehand, it's the 5 minutes before the show when I don't know, then I'm like, oh, that's a problem. Like as long as I can plan around it, I'm good.
Yeah. Well, I've honored Wes actually in his absence, or maybe he won't be absent, but I have honored him by walking in 15 seconds before the show started today.
That's okay. You have built up enough equity over time.
Thank you.
With being really early that being there at the buzzer is okay a few times.
Okay.
So that's fair.
How many days away are we, Tyler?
5. We're 5 days away.
Oh, my.
Only 5. Oh, I believe we do have Wes joining us now, by the way. 5 days until kickoff. A lot of exciting things to get to from a news standpoint. Let me mute my other microphone there. But, Chris, we got to start off. Congratulations are in order. Our guy Wes Mitchell, officially a father. Wes, welcome back. How's it going?
Tyler, I definitely appreciate that, man. Glad to be back. Mama and baby still doing great. And all I'm saying is she was born technically on Friday. Gamecocks got a 5-star commitment. They signed with Nike. Rasul Faison is free now. I mean, she is living a charmed life, and I'm just going to say maybe a little bit of a good luck charm herself.
I say she's off to a good start.
I know. Are you going to, like, tell her at some point, Wes, like, look, it's not always this good, you know? It's kind of like when all the people who were in college during, like, the Spurrier era, like the 33-6, the 5 straight games, and then people would have to tell them, like, look, you know, you were blessed. You were fortunate to come into this. But I see it backwards, Wes. I think she is actually the good luck charm.
Yeah, and so obviously, you know, I was talking to a couple people yesterday. Obviously, she's got to start life with a win on Sunday, or nothing we're talking about. That would kind of overshadow the 3 big positives there from the last few days. But yeah, man, like I said, we're excited, blessed, all that. She's doing great. Mama's doing great. And those, you know, can you imagine though? It just hit me. Can you imagine being one of those people that maybe came in from the Northeast and wasn't a Gamecock fan growing up, and you just picked Carolina maybe because you liked some aspect of it. You're like, oh, I'm gonna get into this football program, and then all of a sudden you just win every year. You're competing for you know, national prominence, and then you're like, yeah, this is my team, and then you just have to kind of learn what Gamecock football has been for the, you know, the decade after that. But yeah, man, she's off to a good start. And I was actually at a Gamecock Club meeting last night, and there's just a lot of excitement in general right now. I know I haven't been on to talk about game week, but boys, we made it.
By the way, I know you can't see him, Chris, but I can see the bags under his eyes. I know sleep's probably been at a premium these past couple days, Wes.
I was going to say you sound great. You sound more well-rested than I do.
Sound good.
Well, and here's what I've learned is just, for one, Mama is the rock star in this whole thing, 100%. And 2, if you got a chance to like knock out a nap, just you got to take it. It's not necessarily going to be like 8 hours in a row. It's just like let's find some sleeping time somewhere.
You've been coaching them, Chris, giving them all the pointers and into dad life?
Well, you know, one thing I learned when I became a dad was there's no shortage of advice that people give you. You know, you have to do this, you have to do that. And a lot of the things that you say, when I become a dad, I will never do whatever. I will not be that. And then you end up doing those things, you know, because you're like, oh, okay, there's like an idealistic fatherhood, and then there's like, there's some survival mode things that you got to do. But I did give Wes one piece of sleep-related advice, and that's all I've given. If he asks, I will give my imperfect advice. Lord knows I've messed up enough. on a bunch of different things.
Oh, well, we're excited for y'all and glad mom and baby are doing good. And again, she's off to a good start between the commitment, the news of Faison, and all those other things. So hopefully we can seal that with a victory coming up on Sunday.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know what all you guys talked about. Yeah, this is Tuesday, right?
This
So
is
y'all have to
Tuesday.
check
It's
out your-
Tuesday.
Well, it's Tuesday for us. It's technically Monday for the team because
Yes.
they're playing on Sunday. So that's going to get confusing as the week goes along.
Yeah, and we're typically used to counting it the other way if there is a change in schedule because, every now and then you'll have a Thursday game. They moved up. What was that, SC State a couple years ago? They moved it up in the week, but we're not really used to counting it the other way with a Sunday game. And as we know, Beamer is a huge believer in routine and keeping everything exactly the same. So today is Tuesday for the rest of us, but it is Monday in that building. And right down to the point that they're going to have the weekly Tuesday press conference on Wednesday for the rest of us.
Yes, 1 o'clock tomorrow. You hear from Coach Beamer on the halftime show. Quick trivia question. When's the last time Carolina played a scheduled game on a Sunday?
Scheduled game?
Or played a game on a Sunday?
Yeah.
That was that when they played Georgia after the hurricane?
That was correct. 2016.
No points
2016.
awarded,
I don't know
though.
if
No points for that
That was a
one.
non-sanctioned question.
That was just a quick one. Got a lot of things to get into, so we'll start off with our 5 days until kickoff trivia question, and we're going to look at number 5 from last year, Kyle Kennard. So today's trivia question is, Kyle Kennard recorded at least half a sack in 9 of the 12 games he played last year. Can you tell me which 3 games he did not record a sack in?
God. I was hoping, Tyler, that you were going with Rocket Sanders.
Well, you had a 50-50 shot at number 5s from a year ago. You went with the wrong one.
I did indeed. That's my mistake. Okay, at least half a sack in 9 of the games. Wes, are you on this one? Are you tuned in?
And yeah, he didn't play the bowl game, so it's just regular season.
Yes.
That's tough. That is tough.
Let me do the thing where I pull up just the schedule.
Okay.
Okay. I'm not.
Okay. All right. If Chris is pulling up the schedule,
You
so
don't
am
pull
I.
up the schedule. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's always fair. I do like to ask permission so that
Yeah, that's fine. I trust you.
I mean, we only have 4 more days of this, but
You guys are neck and neck.
Yeah.
yeah. So we can establish that officially as a ground rule that you can always look at the schedule.
You can always look at the schedule. Yes, that's fine. Just need 3 opponents.
Yeah, I've got a couple, and I'm not sure of, by the way, but I've got a couple, and I'm having a hard time thinking of my third.
Okay.
Wes, do you want me to go ahead and put forth my wrong answer?
Let me go first, and this is an
Okay.
absolute guess. Let me say Wofford, Missouri, and Ole Miss.
Okay.
Complete guess.
Wofford,
So-
Missouri, Ole Miss. Okay. I'm going Ole Miss, Clemson, and what was the other one I picked out? Wofford as well.
Chris, 2 out of 3. Very close. The answer was Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and Clemson. 3 games he did not have a sack in. In fact, he had no stats for the Clemson game.
Yeah. That was actually the one I was most confident in,
Yeah.
was the Clemson game. The other was, and Ole Miss was one?
Ole Miss was one.
Yeah,
and
I was
then,
pretty confident in that one.
see, Ole Miss don't see any registered stats across the board in that one either. Did have some tackles against A&M, but no sacks in that game.
Man, yeah, I wouldn't have come up with that one.
Had half a sack against Akron.
Is there a bonus today?
There actually wasn't a bonus because we had so much to get to.
Okay, no
But
problem.
we can if you would have
let's
gotten
get to it.
points. What's that?
Yeah, let's get to
All right. By the way, you're still leading 26 to 24.5, Chris. So only a couple more days coming down to the wire. Do got a lot of things to get to with Rasul Faison, which we will dive into. Give plenty of time to talk about it coming up next as the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs rolls along on your Tuesday on the game. Welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler, West, and Chris along with you here on your Tuesday on the game. Tomorrow, you can catch us out at the Firehouse Subs on Main Street, 633 Main Street, right there in the heart of campus as we get you set for South Carolina, Virginia Tech coming up on Sunday. Again, that'll be from 9 to noon tomorrow. And then Beamer's weekly press conference again because the week shifted around because of Sunday game. We'll speak tomorrow at 1 o'clock, which you can listen to on the post-game show. And I know what topic number one of conversation tomorrow is going to be. That is Rasul Faison finally being deemed eligible. We have been chasing this the entire offseason, the past 8, almost 9 months. And lo and behold, out of nowhere, Monday afternoon at 4:15, 4:30 or whatever, he finally gets the thumbs up. And we don't have to talk about the will they, won't they anymore with Rasul Faison.
Yeah, it's a big one for the Gamecocks, and there's so much to dive into with this part of it. The first thing is you got to feel great for the kid. Anybody who's ever talked to Rasul Faison, like, people love him as a kid. You know, he's very mature. I think 25 years old. You know, he's been in college a while. He's had a very interesting path to get here to South Carolina. And look, there's a reason that the staff is so fired up about this guy. Like, you would be happy for a player, a guy like him, a person like him, to be able to get this year that I think he very clearly deserved. Like, when you just look at the merits of it, this isn't a guy that just, let me throw in this weight. I feel like playing again. You know, I'd like to get some more NIL money. Let me just throw out this waiver and see what happens. This is a guy that legitimately had a case to where he should have gotten on the field. You know, this is actually only his, I think, third year of, like, Division I football. You know, the rest of the time was not on a roster. Marshall didn't play football, wasn't on the team, which was the year that ended up being in question here. But he had the 2 years at Utah State. Before that, he was at Snow College out in, I think, Utah. And so it's not like, oh, this guy's been on the field for 7 years of college football. It's a different type of situation. So I think you're happy for him. And I think everybody in that building would have advocated just as hard for him if he was coming into this year as, you know, RB3, you know, a depth piece. The good news is he's so much more than that. You know, you look at this guy, he's a very, I think, unique back. He rushed for 1,100 yards last year. You dive into some of the statistical things that he's done even beyond that. He's got, I'm willing to fall on the sword when inevitably this goes the other way. But I have to say, he's never fumbled in college. So he's a guy that...
Knock on wood.
I mean, you could look at the stats, though.
Chris.
I know.
Direct your angry tweets at Chris Clark GC.
Oh, I've already gotten it because I wrote it in a story. I've actually written it a couple times. I wrote it a long time ago, and then he got cleared. So I don't think. But, yeah, when it happens, I understand. I'll take it. But, you know, for a team that's like, we've got to do better in the ball security category.
Yeah.
Even if he had fumbled once in his career, okay? That's a strength of his. Breaking tackles. Broke 69 tackles last season. Rocket Sanders was 46. Yes, I know he was playing the SEC and whatever conference Utah State's in today or
Mountain
last year. Mountain West. I know there's a difference. But this is a kid that has vision, patience, balance, yards after contact, ball security. Like, he has those things. And this is a guy that when you brought him in for the portal, you're like, we think this kid has the goods to potentially start for us. And I think since he's been on campus from January until now, like, he's just, I think, proved that with how he's conducted himself and how he's practiced too.
Yeah, I mean, guys, how many times did we talk about, hey, what would Faison mean if he is able to play? What would it mean if he's not able to play? What are the other guys in the room doing? And, you know, I kind of looked at it as, in terms of this team having everything you possibly could have to reach their potential this year. The final piece of that puzzle, at least in terms of how they envision the roster, will you have Faison available or not? And, you know, we talked about it all the time. Like, I think you could have gotten by. I think you would have been fine, you know, going out and adding the back from Colorado was a very smart, I think, savvy move to make sure you had a little bit of an insurance plan. And he's, by all indications, played well and had a good scrimmage last week. So I just think it raises the ceiling of what that running back room can be. And it very clearly, if nothing else, gives you the depth you're going to need. Like when you look at having Augustave in there and Faison available, the depth, which would have been one of those things you circled and said, hey, they're probably fine, but if they start having a couple of injuries in the running back room, they could get into trouble. I don't think you even have to have that thought anymore when you have both those guys now in your room and eligible and able to play. So that the depth is completely checked off. I think the question now is, and I've had, a couple buddies, a couple people at that Gamecock Club meeting last night too. What exactly does this guy bring to the room? Like, hey, we've heard about him for months now in terms of eligibility. Is he as good as a Rocket Sanders? Can he step in and make that type of impact? I think he's a very different back than Rocket, and expecting him to be Rocket is probably setting the expectations in a place that's not fair. But I do think this is an impact player. Like he was one of the highest rated transfer portal running backs that was available. He did have offers for some big schools out of the portal. Alabama was involved. Florida State was involved. North Carolina was involved. If you just look at the rankings, which in the portal can be a little bit, of a crapshoot, frankly, but he is one of the most highly rated guys South Carolina landed in this portal class on paper. And then you start diving into the film, and you just, to me, see a guy that's a pretty complete back. Like, I don't think he necessarily has elite top-end speed, but I think he's plenty quick, plenty explosive, is going to be able to make guys miss, is going to be able to help you in the passing game as well, just in terms of catching the football out of the backfield. I was looking back at some of my notes on him from when he initially signed with South Carolina, and we were even told, hey, look, like this is someone who runs routes in the passing game. Like he's not just going through the motions out there like maybe some running backs do. That's something we saw, especially as the year progressed, was South Carolina using Rocket as kind of that outlet for Lenoris and just getting the ball out quick to him if there was pressure and not maybe taking so many hits. So I just think, man, you pretty much instantly with that news took a position that I don't want to say was a concern, but at least still had a few questions, certainly in the depth department, and you just completely check that box off now.
Yeah, he's unequivocally your RB1 now, and as Chris mentioned a moment ago, those 69 missed forced tackles, that was 8th best in the entire country of college football, a year ago. And like Wes said, maybe not the fastest running back in college football. If he can make you miss, he's somebody that has the ability to go out there and put up some good stats, this year for South Carolina. And going back to what Beamer and coaches have said over these past couple of weeks, he's still been very much in the mix, practicing, been part of the game plan leading up to it for the hope that this eligibility thing was going to come down before the first game. And yeah, you would have had, some decisions to make going into the weekend if that was still not the case yet. But now 5 days out, he's ready to go. And it's not like you're having to suddenly reintroduce him to everything because he hasn't been playing or hasn't been practicing. Been dinged up a little bit in camps, we've been reporting on, obviously. But all indications are that he's been taking the first team reps as much as possible with the indication that, hey, something's going to happen for game one. And thankfully it finally has.
It's always tough to lose somebody like Rocket. You can't just, we'll just replace Rocket Sanders. Like, he's a really good football player, really good back. But that's the position you're in. So it's about, well, what do you have coming up this year? And so it's interesting that Shane Beamer, despite that, has said a few times that they really like the depth in that running back room. Now, built into that, part of that was the hope/expectation that eventually he would be cleared. They also say that before it was also said before they brought in another transfer that you just referenced, Wes, who was a 4-star guy out of high school as well, who was Colorado's leading rusher last year. So when you add in Rasul Faison, experienced, I think probably your lead back, you add in Isaiah, you add in the fact that you've got, Matt Fuller's a year older now. He doesn't have playing time. He doesn't have the reps, but he's talented, and he's a year older. He's been in the system. You got your other guys you got Attaway out there, right? Like you've got Jawarren Howell, you got Bradley Dunn. Like you've built up some depth that you feel good about. Now that you've got, you now have the complete picture in the running back room. So they seem to feel that, hey, we don't have a Rocket Sanders, but we do have some good players. And now we have Rasul Faison, and we got depth. And as we talk about a lot, guys, running back position's a room where, I mean, if you go through a season where you don't have a back who has to miss a game or gets dinged up, like you are very, very fortunate. That's a position that tends to get banged up. We've seen that here. We've seen that other places. You want to have depth in that room, and they certainly have a better outlook sitting here now on August 26th, game 5 days away, than, even a couple months ago or even before yesterday.
Well, and I think a good point you guys were alluding to, and let's go back to what we talked about in the beginning. For Carolina, yesterday was Sunday. So getting him cleared, basically now you do have the full game week. And as we know, when you're not in a game week, like you're working on things, like you of course introduced Virginia Tech last week, but for the most part, you're just working on getting better. Game week is a much different animal. It's put all the feelings aside. We're going to do everything in our power to put this team in a position to win this game. And we will worry about the rest later. We're working on specific plays for specific defenses, for specific personnel. The further it got into this week, no matter what they said about, hey, he can be ready, the further it got into this week, the more you were going to have to dial back, let's be honest, his reps in practice. So to get him ruled eligible right before you officially start your what is a typical college football game week, I'm not going to say it's great timing, because great timing would have been 5 months ago. But in terms of where we were, in terms of, could it go into the season itself, in terms of all those things, absolutely couldn't have, if it was any later, it affects the VT game. Let's put it like that. And real quick, Tyler, I want to say, let's not forget about Oscar Attaway, because this guy has emerged as the leader of your room. I'm still not convinced that I wouldn't be shocked if play number 1, if we see Oscar Attaway out there on offense. I think these are going to be your 1-2 backs. Now, I think Faison's going to be heavily involved. I think he's your upside guy. I think he's the guy who can change this room. But knowing how much Attaway has put into this season, the progress he has made, I'm actually not going to be shocked if he's out there play number 1, and I'm not going to be shocked if you have some oars on that depth chart that's going to come out, we hope, later on today.
I want to get into that coming up next, and what exactly this means for how you divvy up the workload in the running back room as we head into game number 1 coming up in just 5 days. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West and Chris on your Tuesday on the game. Welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West and Chris with you on your Tuesday here on the game. Busy week at the game as we get you set for the matchup with Virginia Tech coming up on Sunday. Thursday from 3 until 6, Jay and Terry will be doing the post-game show live from Krager's Showroom, formerly known as the Nest, over in the Vista. Then Thursday night at 7 o'clock, your last chance to hear from Coach Beamer ahead of Sunday's game with Carolina Calls with him and Todd Ellis, which you can listen to here in Columbia as well as in Myrtle Beach. Obviously continuing to react to the news of Rasul Faison being granted his eligibility from the NCAA yesterday. And as Beamer has alluded to a lot throughout camp and preseason stuff, he's very pleased with the running back depth that they have. And it looked like for a while you were going to have to turn to those other four guys to carry the load that Faison would not have been able to carry if he was not deemed eligible. But now that he is, the question becomes of, okay, how much do you use each of these guys? How deep into that running back room do you go? I look at last year in game number 1 against Old Dominion, a game that ended up being a whole lot closer than we thought it was going to be. You only had 3 running backs take carries in that game: Rocket Sanders, Oscar Attaway, and Juju McDowell. And as the season went along, it kind of just became the Rocket Sanders Attaway show with an occasional carry here and there for somebody like a Jawarn Howell or a Juju McDowell. But it was consistently a 2-back type of system with Rocket Sanders taking the majority of those carries. So now the question becomes of, okay, you know you're going to have Faison, you're going to have Oscar Attaway. How much do you feature the other guys in that room with that depth that, again, they've been talking about, they've been pretty pleased with?
Yeah, it's always interesting thinking about this. Is always a conversation if you go into a season where you have some depth at the running back room or even receiver, but this is normally a conversation that is reserved for the running back room. And if you feel like you've got more than that one guy who's just so obviously head and shoulders better than others, there's always the conversation of, okay, well, how are you going to have, everybody likes to talk about the 2-headed monster or the 3-headed monster. And the way I look at it is actually how, just kind of copying how coaches look about it. And a lot of coaches say some version of, look, I don't as much decide who plays. The players determine who plays. Now, it does become more difficult if you have a room that's just full of guys that are pretty close to each other who are all pretty good. Then it does become tough. But generally, the guys that they feel like are performing best in practice, that they can trust, that have more of a complete picture. Wes, you were talking earlier about Faison and his ability in the passing game. That matters. We tend to forget about run blocking, or pass blocking, as a running back. Do you feel like you can trust your guy when he's out there? Or is he more situational? Somebody that you feel better about being an every down back is probably going to play more. And then there's, of course, the experience factor. Last time Marquell Blackwell, the running backs coach, talked about this very situation, he didn't really have a firm answer. Of course, Faison was not cleared at that time, but even counting the fact that he was probably going to be in, if you're assuming he's going to be in, he kind of said, look, I've been places where we've got that one alpha lead back. I've been places where we've had a couple. I've been places where we've had 3. And so I think, how is it going to play out? I don't know for sure if we can answer that. Although I do feel like I agree with you, Wes, in some form or fashion. I think Faison and Attaway are your top 2 and are probably going to get most of the carries this year. That's what it seems like to me.
Yeah, and so I think when you do have that bell cow, when you have a Rocket Sanders, you kind of almost feel like if you're the staff, you're like, every time we don't have him on the field, are we hurting ourselves? You almost have to force yourself to give that guy a breather and not to, you have to just be cognizant of how much of a beating is that guy taking, how much does that kind of add up over the season, and just being smart about it. Now, I think for the last, the last 10, probably more years, honestly, most teams kind of do settle on that 1-2 punch almost. And I think if you look at the word depth, that can mean so many different things. We just use the word a lot, but it can mean multiple things. And it even means multiple things for different particular positions, right? And so running back is one of those spots. And if you throw out the garbage time, and we're just talking about a regular football game where let's say the game is in the balance, So you're trying to win the game. It's not over one way or the other. You really, honestly, kind of play two guys. And that third guy, he may get in there, but a lot of times he doesn't. And so that third guy, I think it's important to have a third guy who is also mentally prepared, because the third guy can go from just watching. Like he's practicing, he's taking a beating, he's doing everything right. He's just watching. And then one thing happens, and all of a sudden that third guy, he is elevated into your 1-2 punch. And now, hey, you might as well be a starter. If you're in the 1-2 punch, you might as well be a starter. And your fourth guy becomes what the third guy was. And that's a position you take such a beating in football in general, such a beating in this league, that you really only need the two guys for a game, but you need, when you're looking at it from a season, you need 3, 4, maybe 5. I mean, the best example is the Brandon Wilds game, where he's RB5 as a true freshman to start the season. Next thing he knows, he is on the road in Knoxville, South Carolina, getting a big win with him in the backfield, having a huge game. So I think it's a little bit different position in terms of how your depth, typically plays out. But I think in any of those scenarios, they feel pretty good now. If everybody's healthy and, hey, we just feel good about two guys that can go get it done, yes. If we get to 3, if we get to our fourth guy, do you feel like you have somebody who can go get it done? I think yes. I mean, you have done a really good job, especially in the portal era where it's hard to build depth, of doing that exact thing.
Well, and you lean towards Augusta being that third guy because, again, you brought him in out of the portal when there was uncertainty around Faison, and he would have been that second guy or the 1A, 1B type of thing with Oscar Attaway. And from what we've heard from camp, and he had the longest run apparently of camp, according to Beamer, last week in terms of a touchdown that he had in one of the scrimmages. He seems to be a guy that's really impressed so far, and in terms of fighting for that playing time, he may have that leg up right now on a Jordan Howe, on a Matthew Fuller, who those guys are good in their own right. We've heard plenty of good things about them, but if you had to guess, and hopefully that depth chart does come out here in the next couple of hours or so, you'd probably lean towards maybe him being that third option, and we'll see if he can fight and get his way onto the field and make more of an impact when he gets there, and how much staying power that has in terms of game plans going forward.
Yeah, I mean, you don't look at this, or I don't look at this and say, okay, you think Faison, Attaway are your top two in some form, and they'll probably get the bulk of the carries overall, to your point, Wes. You don't look behind them and go, man, they're potentially in trouble if one or both of those guys at some point isn't available for whatever reason. Like, you do have some depth and some talent on this roster, whether it's guys that transferred in or guys that have kind of come up in this program. Matt Fuller, heck, man, you ask people around the program, Matt Fuller is quite talented. He's just behind some other guys, and so you never know, when your number's going to be called. So, look, could this thing also evolve throughout the course of the year? Could somebody get an opportunity for playing time that maybe they don't have in the first quarter of the Virginia Tech game because something happens and they get in there and they make the most of it and they start making a little bit of a push? I think overall the point is there's one ball, there's limited snaps in a game. You're not going to be able to get 5 backs a lot of carries, but people are expecting Rasul Faison to get a lot of those. So it's a good thing he's on the roster, or he's officially able to go now.
Yeah, again, our 8-month nightmare is finally coming to an end, and we get to see him in action coming up on Sunday. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the hour. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on the game. welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler, Wes, and Chris wrapping up today's edition of the show. Again, very busy week here on the game as we get you set for week number 1. Friday from 6 until noon, early game and Extra Point will be out at Darlington Raceway, getting you set for, obviously, the football weekend, but also Cookout Southern 500 weekend as well. Then Jay and Terry will have the post-game show live from Columbia Craft on Green Street down in the Vista from 3 until 6. And then Friday night at 7 o'clock, the Cotman Transmissions High School Scoreboard Show with Elijah Campbell and Justin Hall as the high school football season is already underway here in the Midlands. Yesterday, we talked a lot about the Darius Gray commitment over the weekend and what that meant for South Carolina and recruiting. We now head out to the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. RJ wants to ask a recruiting question. RJ, appreciate your call. What's on your mind today?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Hey, very quickly, I just had a question. If I am a freshman running back and I come in last year, and then all of a sudden you bring in a guy 6 or 7 years older than me, and then I'm a sophomore this year and you bring a guy that's 6 or 7 years older than me, I mean, is that not going to start maybe hurting recruiting in somewhat if you're bringing in a guy consecutive years, a much older player, a much bigger, stronger, mature player? And I would just have to start thinking twice about wanting to come there if that was going on. I'll hang up and listen. I just thought that was kind of an interesting question. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate the call there, RJ, 803-404-6100. And it does pose an interesting question because Carolina is on a streak now of consecutive years bringing in portal running backs. Go back to Mario Anderson a couple years ago, Rocket Sanders last year, obviously multiple guys. You know, this time around when you talk about Rasul Faison, Oscar Attaway 2 years ago as well, and Isaiah Gustave. So they are becoming one of those teams that's typically looking in the portal each and every year, and that could be something that a younger running back or maybe somebody that you're recruiting out of the high school ranks could look at and see as a potential issue down the line.
Yeah, I mean, it is a part of recruiting now that you have to be cognizant of if you're a high school coach. I mean, for South Carolina, you look back at their recruiting at the running back position, and it's actually been a storyline. When are they going to sign, a big-time high school back? And the portal can diminish the need to do that as long as, of course, you're getting the right guys in the portal. Yeah, ideally, you want to do both. Ideally, you'd love to bring up guys as freshmen in your program, grow them and develop them in your program from 3 to 5 years. But the flip side of that is it's hard to keep guys engaged. It's hard to keep guys on your roster nowadays because of NIL, and even if you took out the portal, because now, let's say the portal doesn't exist, same problem. You bring in 2 backs in a year, or you've got a junior and a senior running back, and if you bring in a 4-star back and he wants to play immediately, he can leave. So this is why, culture is very, very important, and South Carolina's done quite well. They've gotten better, I would argue, in the retention game. I mean, they've done really, really, really well there, whether it's having guys stick around and take time to develop, being able to keep their starters that other schools would absolutely love to have. But yeah, there's no doubt it's more of a challenge in 2025, I think, than it used to be. And I think it's NIL, and I think it's the ability to have free transfers really is kind of what drives it.
Yeah, I think RJ makes a good point, maybe from a global standpoint. I think specifically at South Carolina, specifically at running back, they're actually, to Chris's point, there is no freshman that fits that description either of those years. There is no guy that fits the description of I came in as a high school freshman and then they recruited over me via the portal. If anything, it was kind of reversed. They had to take 3 guys at that position out of the portal last offseason because of the fact that they didn't bring in high school backs. So I think it's worth keeping an eye on. You have to acknowledge it. You have to be, I guess, wary if you're a staff of making sure you don't over-recruit guys. But on the other side, when they recruit someone, they tell you every single offseason, hey, I've heard Beamer phrase it like this: my job is to make this team better. And, if you're a freshman, if you're a sophomore, if you're ready to be the starter, if you're ready to be an impact guy, you hope they're going to be able to see that, and they're going to say, we maybe don't need a top portal running back in this class. But if you need a guy, you do have the portal out there, obviously, to go out and supplement that position, or in the case of Rocket Sanders last year, to come in and be the guy at that position. So, yeah, it's a good global point. I'm not knocking the point. I just think in terms of South Carolina specifically at that scenario, it's not really anything they've had to worry about. It's actually been more about, hey, we got to go to the portal and make sure this room, make sure this position is taken care of. And it does. I think it affects high school recruiting completely, just in terms of maybe schools not even taking the high school guy in the first place. Like, if I'm a high school guy and I have an SEC scholarship and I'm getting some rev share, that's kind of a blessed position to be in the first place, to be honest.
Yeah, and Carolina, you even look forward west to next year. So they're bringing in a high school back in Amari Thomas, 4-star back, highly thought of. So they will have a true freshman on the roster next year, but they will not have Rasul Faison and Oscar Attaway. They're in their last year as 2 seniors. It'll be, we think, more open to where if Amari Thomas comes in as a freshman, I'm sure they promised him the chance to compete, and that's it. And if he's the best guy, he'll play. Or if he's the number 2, he'll play. So I do agree. Agree with you, Wes. Good global point. Maybe not as applicable to South Carolina here right now or even next year, but it is one of those recruiting challenges that coaches have to navigate now more than ever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, you're always trying to, like you said with Beamer, make this team better. And, thankfully this time around with Rasul Faison, that's going to make this team better. And we do get to see him in action coming up in 5 days and don't have to continue to worry about the will they, won't they in terms of his eligibility, which is obviously good, and excited to see him in action coming up on Sunday against Virginia Tech, which, by the way, you can listen to right here on the game. Pregame coverage starting at 10 o'clock with Gamecocks Game Day, myself with Terry Ford, and then network coverage kicks in at noon, taking you right up to kickoff at 3 from Atlanta. And don't forget tomorrow, as I'm sure Chris is about to tell you about here in just a second, you can catch us out at Firehouse Subs at 633 Main Street, right in the heart of campus, as we get you set for week number 1 as well. This has been the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Halftime show, myself and Jack Veltri up next here on the game.
All right, as we close out the show here, as Tyler just mentioned, we will be at the Firehouse Subs on USC's campus right there on Main Street, heart of South Carolina's campus. At Firehouse Subs, 9 to noon tomorrow. Store open about 10 o'clock. Come on by. Come see us. Get yourself a delicious Firehouse Subs. Come say hey to us. Listen to us chat about Gamecock football with the game coming up this Sunday. If you can't wait, I don't blame you. If